Jordan Bianucci back with me here. Jordan, Devin Dampier was battling injuries for most of the season, and that was clear. You just look at the way he was running early in the season versus a BYU attack. Something's not right. Even by the time we got the bowl game against Nebraska, he had that month off. He looked healthier, looked faster, looked quicker, all those things the case. Well, it's been reported by Jason Bakato of the Salt Lake Tribune that Dampier had surgery earlier this month to repair a sports hernia. And this is back in December, this was reported, that he suffered during the third week of the season. That was against Wyoming when Utah's offense really struggled there. For Devin Dampier to have the season he still had, Big 12 Newcomer of the Year, over 25 plus touchdowns, only 5 picks, led this Utah team to an 11-2 record, all on a sports hernia, makes me even more excited about what he could be capable of next year, Jordan.
Absolutely. I mean, the key to week 3, that was before conference play started, anything. That's not a little injury. That's not like didn't tweak an ankle. That's difficult. So absolutely, if he can stay healthy and improve the passing game downfield, I really like what he can do. And you mentioned, he's a Heisman hopeful, long odds, but the fact that he's on that list does tell me something.
It absolutely does. And you mentioned the Heisman odds. Josh Furlong put out there that the Heisman odds for way too early for 2026 have been released. Of course, Arch Manning's at the very top. And you got to scroll down the list a little bit, but you do find good old Devin Dampier inside the top 20. And I think some people think that's crazy. But when you think about the type of season that Dampier had this year, and you also factor in the injury, it's not that crazy. Entering this year, last year for Utah, he joined an exclusive list of players at New Mexico who threw over 2,500 yards in a season and rushed for 1,000 yards. We didn't think he'd do exactly that at Utah, but at the same time, had he been fully healthy and also had the chance to play in one extra regular season game, he would have played Colorado. We know his stats would have been massive in that one with how the bus were formed, and had a shot in the Big 12 title game. He might have been not too far off those numbers, threw for nearly 2,500 yards, and that's including the bowl game now. But given those extra games, and if we include some of the bowl games as well, he could have been a 3,000 yards passer, and he was 835 rushing yards from the ground, nearly 1,000 yards rusher. If he has those type of stats in the regular season next year, and if he's fully healthy, he could get very close to those. Who's to say he can't be in New York next year, especially if he's leading a Utah team that by the time this comes out, we should see their schedule isn't loaded with juggernauts, has a CFP type of run. I don't know if he'll land in New York. My prediction this year was he'd land in the top 10 of the Heisman. Jordan, I might not learn my lesson. I might make it again with the healthy Devin Dampier coming back next year.
Yeah, I mean, and we haven't seen the actual schedule, but we know the opponents, and there aren't a ton of really scary defenses on that schedule. There are a couple, there are a few, but no, it's the qualifier in football, right? If he's healthy, he can do a lot. We'll see how he meshes with Kevin McGivern. I'm interested to see that. But yeah, I mean, and I think it's huge having Wayshawn Parker come back. I was watching that because I know they have to patch the offensive line, but that takes a load off him. And also Burt Bicklin coming back, I think is big. So I think he is poised to have a big year out there. I know we won't get into the schedule, but I like the outlook for him in the Utes.
I feel the same way. And one thing that he's going to do next year, probably, unfortunately, is take more hits in the pocket. So what I want Devin's adjustment to be, Jordan, is him to run less between the tackles. That's Kevin McGivern as well, too. I felt like that was one area where he was taking an extra beating on his body. Is that why he got hurt? I don't know that for sure, that this is the exact play he got hurt on. But I know if you're hurt and you're running between the tackles, and Devin Dampier is not even 6 foot. So he is just taking a beating on the inside there, is not a bigger guy going against 300-plus pound defensive linemen. I think an adjustment I'd like to see for Utah next year is run him less between the tackles. He can still scramble. You can still use him in certain quarterback-designed runs. But really be on him about not calling those design quarterback runs. And when he does scramble, Devin, just slide. Live to fight another day. We cannot risk you getting banged up because quarterback health, this was week 3 we just mentioned too. Mm-hmm. So had Devin been healthy, maybe Utah stands a chance in some of those other games. Probably still lose to Tech, but part of the reason the offense was so bad was Devin clearly wasn't healthy. So who knows? Could have been a different season had Devin been healthier, right, Jordan?
It takes a toll. It just does. And it takes one hit. That's why I always get down. And I lighten the load. I don't need him taking shots from defensive linemen and linebackers constantly. I'm totally with you. We didn't even realize how hurt he was. Yeah. And I remember watching games and thinking, like, I get why you're running in between the tackles, but why so much? Yes. That was kind of one of the frustrating things for me watching this season. So no, I'm totally with you. It's funny. He is so athletic and so strong. It's deceiving because when
Yes.
like you cover him in person, you mentioned it. He is not a big guy. It just shows you how talented he really is.
He is an incredible talent. And you mentioned he is strong for his size. Just a matter of when a 300-pound defensive lineman lands on you time and time again, it's going to wear down over time. So I'm really excited for him. And Jordan, by the time a lot of people are listening to this, the Big 12 schedule will have dropped. And I think we feel the same way, just as we stand here right now before the Big 12 schedule drops. We have the list of opponents. It's not that intimidating of a group. Utah sees Arkansas this year. Arkansas is to come to us. That's a first-year Razorbacks program. And I'm also old enough to remember, Jordan, the last time an SEC team came out to Salt Lake City did not go so well for the good old Florida Gators. How about this year? I'm looking at a Houston team, which is probably the second best team on Utah's schedule with BYU, I think, being the top one. I think as much as I was Locked On Utes, but we can give the Cougars their flowers and say it's a really talented roster they put together. Houston's probably the second most talented team. Even last year, they lost to the West Virginia in a disappointing game. They did not have outstanding wins. I know they got beat LSU in a bowl game. That was an LSU team that's a shell of itself. I just am not really scared by a lot of the teams on Utah's schedule. There's always wild cards throughout the college football season. That happens, especially in the NIL era, because so many of these teams, we don't know how the quarterback they brought in, how all this stuff is going to pan out. But with a healthy Devin Dampier, some key skill position talented players back too, and some really strong coaching from Morgan Scalley, hopefully a couple of portal guys hit, this could be a really good Utah team that has a chance at 10 wins once again.
Absolutely. If I would have looked at that schedule a month and a half, 2 months ago and seen an Iowa State team, I'd been, okay, that'll be tough. Well, Matt Campbell's gone. So and they have BYU. BYU, I think, is the toughest team on that schedule conference. Well, after Tech, I should say.
Yeah.
BYU is going to be good. But they come up to Salt Lake. You have them at home. So it's very doable. Now, TCU, they've lost their quarterback. I was on the radio this morning. I'm talking to Bryce Larson, and Bryce did jump in on me and goes, look, you're right now, but in next October, November, there's going to be some team in there that's way better than we thought they were. And some team in there that we thought was going to be great, and they're going to be at 500. That does seem like a trend right now in the Big 12.
Massive one. Well, and especially this year, it was kind of the latter of what you said, right? Because I remember sitting there trying to predict Utah's schedule before the season, and I'm staring at Kansas, Kansas State, and Baylor. And I'm just like, I don't see how Utah wins 3 of those games in a row. And all 3 of those teams were absolutely disappointing, and Utah won those 3 games in a row. Now, we didn't at the time also thought, can BYU really beat Utah again? And the answer to that was, yeah. BYU was a surprise because we didn't expect it to be as smooth and as seamless of a transition as it ends up being. But you're right. There's going to be some surprises on the schedule, but maybe Utah can be a surprise. I feel like Utah's roster got worse from last year as we stand here today, but development from Dampier and still some strong coaching on the defensive side of the ball. And I should just say, not even development, healthy Dampier, combined with a middling schedule, could take what on paper looks like an 8-4 roster into a 10-2 team. And then, Jordan, we talked about in the first segment a little bit, CFP for the Utah Utes, and just getting the dance, and anything can happen, right?
Yeah, give yourself a shot. It'll also be interesting to see what the expectations are too, because the last 2 years, Utah has come in with the spotlight on them. That first year in the Big 12 and then last year. And they were the team to beat. Because even if it's hard to remember this, but early on in the year, we knew Texas Tech was good. Albeit none of us, I don't know about you, I was not picking Texas Tech to come into Salt Lake and win that game against Utah. I thought Utah, some people did, but Texas Tech proved to be much better than I thought they were. That was a great, I should say, defense. That was a great defense. But so next year, Texas Tech will have all the attention. And I think BYU will have a lot of attention because they've retained so many guys on that squad. Utah may be able to, I don't know, maybe you have a different opinion on this. Will Utah be able to sneak under the radar a little bit next year?
I think in some ways, yes. I think anytime you bring your quarterback back, that gets a little tougher, but also the whole Kyle Whittingham to Michigan thing. I think there's going to be extra eyeballs on the Wolverines, obviously, now because of that. And I totally agree. BYU and Tech have to be the favorites. And I should go back to what you said. I actually did pick Utah to beat Tech, but I thought Tech was capable of coming in because I did think that roster was as talented as it was. So it'll be interesting to see who those surprise teams are. This episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by our great friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. The college football playoff is here, and the college football playoff has an offer for you with FanDuel. It's giving all customers even more ways to get in on the action every single game day of the playoffs, because right now, every college football playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost waiting for them in the app. And yes, college football may have passed us by now, but what else is there? There's college basketball. There's the NFL. Playoffs still rolling on. There's the NBA too. FanDuel has you covered. The profit boost is there and bets you. And if you feel good about a best, why not add a profit boost? Ride with your favorites when you think your team is controlling the matchup. Then apply the profit boost and even go bigger winnings then. When you win, FanDuel pays out instantly, which is perfect for playoff football. FanDuel is the best place to get in on the action all playoff long. So visit FanDuel.com to get your college football playoff profit boost every single game day. You can head over to FanDuel Sportsbook today.